Our New Testament reading for this day on Pentecost is the Acts account of the birth of the church as the Spirit comes to those fearful first disciples. Listen now as we hear what God is saying to us this day. When the day of Pentecost had come, they were all together in one place. And suddenly from heaven there came a sound like the rush of a violent wind, and it filled the entire house where they were sitting. Divided tongues, as of fire, appeared among them, and a tongue rested on each of them. All of them were filled with the Holy Spirit, and began to speak in other languages, as the Spirit gave them ability. Now there were devout Jews from every nation under heaven, living in Jerusalem. And at this sound the crowd gathered and was bewildered, because each one heard them speaking in the native language of each. Amazed and astonished, they asked, "Are not all these who are speaking Galileans? And how is it that we hear each of us in our own native language? Parthians, Medes, Elamites, and residents of Mesopotamia, Judea and Cappadocia, Pontus and Asia, Phrygia and Pamphylia, Egypt and the parts of Libya belonging to Cyrene, and visitors from Rome, both Jews and proselytes, Cretans and Arabs. In our own language, we hear them speaking about God's deeds of power." All were amazed and perplexed, saying to one another, "What does this mean?" But others sneered and said, "They are filled with new wine." And they've always thought Peter's comeback was a little on the comical side. But Peter, standing with the 11, raised his voice and addressed them, "Men of Judea, and all who live in Jerusalem, let this be known to you, and listen to what I say. Indeed, these are not drunk as you suppose, for it is only 9 o'clock in the morning. No, this is what was spoken through the prophet Joel. In the last days it will be, God declares, that I will pour my Spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall dream dreams. Even upon my slaves, both men and women, in those days I will pour out my Spirit, and they shall prophesy. And I will show great portents in the heaven above, and signs on the earth below, blood and fire and smoky mist. The sun shall be turned to darkness, and the moon to blood, before the coming of the Lord's great and glorious day. Then everyone who calls on the name of the Lord shall be saved." The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. A couple of weeks ago, I went to Boston to attend the graduation of my older daughter from college, and in another week it will happen again as I attend the high school graduation of the other daughter. And as you would expect on such an occasion, other family members made the trek to Boston for that graduation, and will, of course, be coming here next week for another graduation. Graduations are big moments. They are big life transitions, and we tend to celebrate such transitions. Life is filled with transitions. There are births and deaths. There are graduations and children leaving home. There are careers begun, and there are retirements. There are marriages, and there are divorces. We seem to innately realize the importance of transitions. We celebrate many of them. We celebrate birthdays. We realize that this transition, the birthday, the transition into life on this world, defines us in a way. I'm not talking about any sort of non-Christian understanding of astrology or horoscopes, but simply the fact of our birth does define us. It places us into particular families, in particular places, with particular gifts and abilities. And I'd never thought about some of this much until I moved here from the Carolinas. And I came to realize that as someone from another part of the country, I'm different from people who were born and raised in the Midwest. Now today, we recognize those who are graduating. A defining transition in its own right. Not only do graduates as a whole make more money than those who are not graduates, but being a Bobcat or a Golden Bear or a Buckeye or a Hoosier or a Spartan or even a Wolverine marks people. It defines them in some way. People will carry the mark of this transition with them, some more boldly than others, but it will always be a part of their identity. Now, the transitions of our lives mark key experiences that somehow work together to form us into the people that we are. They give us our identities. And if someone asks me who I am likely to rattle off things that have to do with significant transitions in my life. I'm a pastor. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'm a Tar Heel. I'm middle-aged. I don't like to claim the last one, but there's no avoiding it. And those who graduate this year will add another notch in their identity belts as they move from I'm a high school student or I'm a college student to I'm something else. And it's interesting to look at what parts of their identity people claim. When the opportunity comes to me to say, hi, I'm James, what do I add? What do I say? What parts do I claim? What parts do I hold back? And one thing that strikes me as interesting, maybe even odd, is how seldom we tend to claim and remember the religious transitions in our lives. I have no idea when I was baptized. I'm sure it's in a baby book at my parents' house somewhere, and I could find out if I called and asked, but I've not. I don't know. And there's a line in the baptismal liturgy that we use here in worship that says, as a part of that liturgy, let us remember with joy our own baptisms as we celebrate this sacrament. And on more than one occasion when we have had a worship service in which we did celebrate baptism, someone has come up to me after that service and said, I can't remember my baptism. I was just a little baby. What do you mean, remember your baptism?